ride down to Canterbury from Fargo. The road conditions weren't that great, but made it down here to Shakopee. Now, for those of you that have never been to Canterbury, you enter in this expo center right here. That leads to a bunch of tunnels, and then you get into the main venue area. Now, for the venue area, they have a 2-tier venue setting for indoors. I purchased the general admission outdoors, which is $25 for Saturday and $20 for Friday. Now, what's nice for the indoor setting, if you have a family, you can reserve seating, and then that way you can keep the little kiddos inside. I was going to bring the family with, but luckily I decided not to this day because they would have had outdoor tickets as well. And it would have been a short day because the little kiddo, she's 5, she would have got cold, and I probably wouldn't have been able to stay to watch the finals. So if you're going to bring kids with, I'd say pony up, spend the extra $15 a ticket, and then you can have them indoors and you could watch most of the racing all throughout the night. Now, the last Canterbury Snowcross I've been to was probably 2005, somewhere back around then. That's when the revs were going. I don't remember this show being there before, like a vintage show, but this was pretty cool. They had like that old Skidoo, this SSR Yamaha, a couple of nice Polaris, whatever that Northway, that lime green sled was there in the back. Just some really cool sleds to take a look at, some vintage stuff, some drag racing, ice racing sleds. And then this one here was an old Polaris one, serial number 4. And it also says no brakes, so proceed with caution. Next shot here has one of my favorite sleds. That's the old Arctic Cats. These are 98s. I like the 97 graphic schemes a lot better than 98s, but still pretty cool sleds that are in pretty mint condition. Even got some of the old riding gear that these guys had. And then a couple Scorpion sleds right there. Now, I listened to a couple of the Carbide podcasts, and a lot of the guys that worked on those Scorpions said that they were notorious for breaking down. This here, a cool old Polaris that's got the original painting, it says on it, from 1973. Now, this would compete with some modern day wraps. I don't know if you see many wraps like this, but eat your heart out there. And that was about it for the vintage show. Going out to the track here, pretty same setup that I remember Canterbury from back in the day. You have that double leading into the tabletop, which they cleared that massively. Finish right there. Goes into the corner. You come around, and here you have the Skidoo, or the Air Force Flyaway, I believe is what they usually called that triple, the first triple back there. But then goes into those famous triples. Got the big nice screen back there, into a couple of whoops, and right off you go around the corner and finish up again. Now, it was cold today, and it got colder through the night, as you can see with this shot here. Racing for these guys, man, it was freezing. Now into the pits. Off to the right was staging right near the track. Here to start out of the gate, you have Snocross Race Team. They were the first ones to line up in the pro section. I don't know what determines who gets the first slots as you're going into the pits. So if anyone knows, if you could comment below if maybe they have to pay for it or if it's a first come first serve. I'd be interested to find out who or what gets that placement. Right here, I like this little fence that Snocross had right in front of Elias Ischel's the 200 sled. One thing I do like with Snocross, last year they had the all black. They did just kind of go with the standard bottom yellow for the Skidoos this year, but then they have it accented nicely with just a little bit of red from this Northland Concrete and Masonry Company. Just that little bit of red accent in there is pretty cool. Elias has got the red plates on there. He's leading, so he gets to carry that. Right next in to them was Judnick Motorsports. They're obviously running with the Moose, Emil Haar, the number 31, and the 53 of Cody Cam. Cam was injured. He had a foot injury this weekend, so that was kind of a bummer. He was just doing starts. Moose's sled right there, they had the cover on. There's just a little bit of snow flurries going on. And then right next to them, you had Thien Motorsports. They have 220, Francis Peltier running out of their trailer there. Right next to them was Mattingly Motorsports. Now they're based out of Kentucky. I can't recall who their main rider is. I was looking online for some information about them, but there's very little info about their snowcross team out there. Next to Mattingly was, of course, Shearing Speed Sports, running with Hunter Patnode and Anson Shield of 44, the pro light racer. Next to Shearing was Warnet Racing, and out of there they have Toby Posty and Jordan LaBelle. LaBelle would have a tough weekend the first couple races, but then he got a win on the third Triple Crown of the weekend on Saturday. Next to Warnet is Kylo Racing. They got Jacob Yerk. Both those guys are from the All-Finish race team. Kylo decided to start his own race team this year, and they're kind of a grassroots operation, and Jacob got a fourth in one of the races. He was really flying. True North Boss Racing right next to them. They have number 413 Evan Dott. A couple of pro light riders they have were number 12 of Dylan Rose and the 34 of Cale Kalin. Moving on, you have the KC Motorsports rig featuring the Wolf, Oscar Norm, and the 33 of Evan Christian. They have a new rig for this year. I believe that is the all-finish rig from last year with the new kind of retro Polaris wrap on it. They also have some of the coolest wraps on their sleds, so like a chrome and then all red look this year. Here you got Lavalle Racing right next to them with Riley Bester and the number 3 of Adam Peterson. Next to Lavalle Motorsports was the 1-3 Motorsports Racing rig, which they have the number 9 of Marcus Ogmar and the 93 Moline the Machine Coutu. And riding in the pro light class was the number 122 of Jeremy Bayloup. Next to 1-3 Motorsports was Coutu Racing. This year, of course, without Cole Coutu. He's over on theme, but then he got injured, and that's where Peltier is running for them. Right here, they have the 747, the Cam Cole sled coming out right here. I always like the wraps or the graphics they have. And they have 201, which is Travis Kern. I just saw an update on Cole just on the FXR YouTube page, and they did a little update injury on him. Apparently, he re-injured his pelvic injury that he had from last year, so it looks like it required surgery, and they were kind of hoping there he might be back here with theme at the end of the year, but that is kind of unlikely. Maybe make Lake Geneva, but hopefully we'll see him there. Next up, you have the West Coast Customs rig right here. They have the number 2 of Nick Lorenz racing for them. They always have some cool looking blue, yellow, and gray looking skidoos out there. They also have Tasha Lang running in the pro women's course. Next to West Coast Customs was Bikeman Performance. Now, it looked like they had a couple of junior racers riding for them, but I really like the wraps and the customization they do to their sleds here. It takes a lot of work to do like what they did here. I mean, you look, they have spindles that are different colors, they have rails that are also, so you have to take all that off, powder coat it, and then if you have any damage to the sled, you have to rewrap or do any of this stuff. So I really appreciate it when a team goes all out, and I bet their sponsors do too. But also a nice looking rig that they had going with it. Next to them was the Hilmerson's Motorsports rig. Now, I had to do a little digging because, once again, their social media page is kind of lacking. But they have the 144 of the French-Canadian Emmerich Legendary, and running for Sport Light class, they have Trenton Hilmerson out of there. This is the 144 sled of Emmerich here. I added some music right in here because it got really windy at this part of the pits. And here is the Flipson Racing rig. I really like the gold accented that they have on the black with the skidoos. Kenny Mandrick runs out of there, the 61. And then this sled right here is the 323 of Caden Flipson, and they have the 254 Kellen Chaperon, who's running the sport class. This is, if you have also watched the SeaTac channel, SeaTac does the retching here, and Kenny, he does the racing. I like what they do there because it gives you a background into the dynamics of a team or just a racer or a mechanic themselves, what they have to do on the weekend, what they're prepping with, and just the traveling. Right next to them, Krajcek Racing, which they have the Pro Light Racer 154 Colton Krajcek And they also have the 672 of Ryan Frank, who's racing the Pro 30 class. What's pretty cool about him is that he's raising money for the Wings for Life program for his son Racer, who was injured in a motocross accident, so it's for spinal cord injuries as well. So that's kind of a cool program they're running there. Here you can see the Hemmer Motorsports rig. Hemmer has Ina Hager, number 331, racing Pro Women's, and Tyler Archambault riding for Pro Light. These sleds were pretty cool here out of the Team Southside Polaris, which had Jesse Kirchmeier and Sal LeBeau. That's his number 19 sled right here. Coming up next is the Freeland Racing rig. They're part of the Snocross Race team, kind of teamed up with them. So they have Drew Freeland and Brady Freeland out of there. Next to them is the London Recreation Racing. Now what's cool about these guys is they sponsor a lot of sport light riders, and really get those up-and-comer racers a good shot at advancing and moving on up in the sport. And this is just about it for the end of all the large semis, or the main, I guess you could call them factory teams. It didn't go back and I wanted to get some of the privateer trailers, kind of the independent setups, just get a look at a lot of those. But man, it was cold. This was interesting. This is Cyclone Motorsports. I believe they're out of Canada, and they run a 120 sled out of there. That semi's for them. Oh, and can't forget about Woody's Racing, of course, one of my favorite teams here from my hometown, Princeton, Minnesota. They, of course, have the 221 of Daniel Benham, and the Pro Light Rider, the 115 of Trent Whitmer. I had to get a shot of this Green Mountain Racing rig. The lighting was on point, and really I love the trailer setup. Clean, it's compact, but you got everything you need in there, and it's one of my favorite setups to look at as well. Just kind of the small independent teams that make it work and do well. And now we're done with the pits, making our way back up toward the racetrack. Let me know again how you thought that music went along with it. Maybe the next pit walk I'll do, I'll have it the whole way through. This weekend, once again, was featured a Triple Crown race for the pros for both Friday and Saturday. Pro Light was the normal series of heat races, and then you advance on to the final. I think they're doing a lot more Triple Crown because the pro numbers, as far as racers goes, has been down. It's kind of hard to make a 15 racer final when you only have just about 15 racers, and then a couple of those getting injured. Like Hunter Patnode, he suffered an elbow injury, which puts him out for about 6 to 8 weeks. And then you had Cody Cam with that foot injury, which is going to sideline him for just a little bit as far as being competitive. So hopefully these guys stay healthy. We have some good competitive racing this year for the pro class. Now I was doing my best to keep things focused with the cameras and everything, but man, it was cold. It was probably, to start out, about 10 degrees and then maybe a 20 to 30 mile an hour wind intermittently. And it just really made it difficult to keep the hands warm. I'd be out there filming and I'd have to go back inside, go warm them up. But try to do my best and get as much footage as I could down trackside here. I really like the up close and kind of right next to the track level. as far as that goes. You don't see too much of that. And then here I'm just keeping the sound, no music added to it, so you can hear that. The results for Saturday in the Pro Light class had Creighton Dillon on the top of the podium. Nick Lawrence finished in second, and Toby Posty was third. And the pros for the Triple Crown, Ilias Ishel won 1-1, but then in the last race, he ended up having a mechanical issue, and he basically broke down, didn't finish the race, but he still had enough points to get a third. Francis Peltier got second, and then Emil Haar had the best finish this out of the night, which garnered him the top of the podium for the Triple Crown. Well, thanks for watching. I had a great time, even in the cold when it was about 0 degrees, probably -20 with the wind chill. But as always, a great time watching some racing, and if you haven't before, please like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps out, and we'll see you on the next one.